Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. As you can see, we have a very heavy topic here to discuss. All right, suicidal thoughts after narcissistic abuse. This isn't my first time addressing the topic of suicide on this channel. After this video uploads, I will link those other videos here if you would like to go ahead and watch those. As a matter of fact, I'm going to create a playlist called Suicide and Narcissistic Abuse, and I will just put them all under there in a playlist, okay? So this title will attract all types of viewers. Perhaps you are currently having the suicidal thoughts after narcissistic abuse, or maybe you know someone who you believe may be having, or you have that suspicion about them having those thoughts. Or maybe you've had it in the past and you want to get some more understanding, or maybe it's just someone that wants to understand a little bit more about suicide. Okay, welcome to my channel. The first thing that I'm going to say is there's a lot of information, guys. There's a lot of information, a lot of statistics out there, and I will get into that here in this video. But, you know, my immediate urge is to just really right now speak to that person who may be having those suicidal thoughts after experiencing narcissistic abuse. First of all, you're not crazy. All right, that's the first thing that I want to tell you. You're not crazy. Narcissistic abuse, and for those of you who have been there and done that, we know how harsh it is, okay? It's a harsh, traumatic experience, all right? And afterwards, we feel something called soul raped. And that means that an interaction or experience has affected you to your core. Like you feel it down in the depths of your soul. And when you come across this person with such a lack of character, such a lack of morale, such a lack for respect, and you know, they treat you so inhumanely, it can be beyond devastating, okay? And, you know, after that experience, you know, when, of course, they leave you in a pile of mess and they're not a part of helping you find any kind of closure, and sometimes it's the first time we've even experienced something so horrific, we don't even know where to begin. But we know that that person has made us feel worthless, and you know, there's a lot of confusion there about how could someone treat us like that, and the way that stench and that feeling afterwards. And then sometimes it's a situation where it's been habitual, like you're the next person, you were the next person to do it to me, and then that can feel like the straw that broke the camel's back. And it could push us when we were already perhaps on the edge because we weren't healed from those other offenses and those other traumatic experiences. Now we feel like we're being pushed off a cliff here. And what tends to be happening is our hope seems to have disappeared at this point. By the time that we're feeling suicidal thoughts and experiencing that aspect, it's hope that we're losing sight of. You know, and that word sight is going to be very key here in this whole conversation. Okay? You're not alone. You're not alone. And we'll get into the statistics here eventually. We're going to get into these statistics. But millions and millions of people have had these thoughts. But this one is specific to narcissistic abuse. And I think as a society, we need to have more compassion around the topic of suicide. But I think it's the lack of awareness that prevents it. And hopefully, videos like this can help do something about it. But if you're the person that's currently having those suicidal thoughts, I want you to know that chances are it's a perspective shift that needs to be occurring here. It's your perspective that's sending you to this place. And what is our perspective? Our perspective is what we're perceiving. You don't know how many people who have gotten coaching sessions with me who have been in a state of wanting to commit suicide. Coach Lakia, I don't want to live anymore. It hurts. They're going through a grieving process and they're trying to digest all that toxicity and all of that hate, all that cruelty. And of course, it's highly offensive and disrespectful. But it's our perspectives that will take a situation that we didn't want, that will take somebody else's darkness that they inflicted on us and pushed down our throat or subjected us to. Oftentimes we're taking that and attaching to it. After we feel that those traumatic experiences, it's hard not to think about it, at least initially, when you haven't healed from it and you're not far enough removed from it. And I'll tell you one thing that I learned about in psychology is the more that we focus on things, the bigger that it tends to grow. So what I find is something called tunnel vision occurs, okay? Something that I call tunnel vision, okay? And that's when you can't see the whole picture of things because you're so focused on your hurt and your pain. And that is debilitating you in the moment from being able to see the rest of the picture. Okay? I want you to think about that for a moment because what we think about, it does grow. And you're probably like, well, how could I not think about it? I mean, you can never forget something like that. Of course I'm going to think about it. It's horrible. How could I forget something like that? And I'm not asking you to forget it. I'm just asking you to understand that when you're not far enough removed from the situation and when you haven't found enough healing, it's quite easy for you to just focus on your hurt and pains. And it takes you far away from gratitude at that point. And not having that gratitude enables you to lose even more hope. What little bit of drops of hope that you had left. Okay? And you're like, gratitude? What do you mean? I should be thankful that I went through this trauma. I should be thankful that that person abused me? No. It's not about being thankful for someone hurting you. Of course not. That's sick. I'm not saying that at all. It's about seeing what is right in your life as well. Being able to still acknowledge what is right in your life. And believing that you can recover from that situation. And that comes with informing yourself and understanding what healing from a trauma looks like, and also understanding the proper steps to take to be proactive in a healing process so that you're not stuck, anywhere, for instance. So a lot of times a person who's feeling suicidal after narcissistic abuse, they don't understand. They're not understanding that hurt and pain. They don't know how to digest it. They don't know how to cope with it. And that's making them not want to exist. You feel like you have a poor quality of life long enough. And then for some people who seem to run into these type of people over and over and over, and it's perpetual in their life, after a certain point, it's like, if this is life, I don't want it. If this is what life is about, I'd rather check out. And, I want to make a video like this to intercept it, and then sometimes there's guilt and shame. Like, I'm embarrassed, Someone else did these horrific things to you, but you feel embarrassed and ashamed. How can I live healthy in society? People know that this happened to me or that happened to me. How am I going to be able to, everyone's going to think I'm just damaged goods forever, or it could just even be our own story that we're telling ourselves, obviously in our own mind, even if a lot of people don't really know, even if it's not like out in the public. Okay, so it's a lot of variables, when it comes to narcissistic abuse. But our soul is heavily bruised, first and foremost, and that needs some mending. And if we're not getting close enough to the light and we're getting swallowed by our darkness, and the more we get swallowed down into that black hole, the less we can even see even a crack of light anywhere. And, I'm a spiritual person myself. And I believe that, the further we get sucked into that black hole, the harder it is for us to hear God's voice. The harder it is because it's not because of God. It's because of our own resistance. We're so far removed. We're so sucked in to the toxicity. We're so consumed with our grief and our pain and our hurt and our sorrow is renting so much space in our minds that there isn't a lot of room for anything else to seep in there. All right, so to me, suicidal people have a loss for hope when it comes to, because there's different kinds of suicide, and this video isn't about breaking down all those different types, but with the theme of after narcissistic abuse. Okay, there's a loss of hope, and that's what needs to be recaptured at that point. And oftentimes, in order to be able to do that, there needs to be a shift in your perceptions, a shift in the story that you're telling yourself. And there needs to be some type of awareness, okay? And you're like, I'm completely aware. Well, you're completely aware of your pain and your suffering. You're aware of that aspect of things. But like I said about that tunnel vision, what we focus on does grow. And also having that tunnel vision, it blinds us to everything else, okay? And at that point, we're giving the act of what happened to us way too much power and authority. And this is how we can be physically removed from a situation. We're physically removed from our abuser, from that narcissist, but yet they're still having some levels of control and power over our lives because we're frozen, we're stuck in the toxicity that they left us sitting in. And it's eating us away. All right, so, if you're the person that's having those thoughts, I want to reiterate with you, you're not crazy, of course. Millions of people have this. And if you keep living long enough on earth, everyone experienced betrayal and devastation. And that's not to minimize anybody's hurts and pains. It's just to not make you feel like some type of weirdo because you had those thoughts. That's why I'm sharing that with you, not to shame or guilt you for having them. To let you know that a lot of people have them. They won't be vocal about it because they're afraid of other people judging them. But if you live life long enough, you will have some moments, some dark moments that can make or break you, And that's going to be all about getting consumed or sucked in by your pain and your hurt and the story that you're telling yourself. Because once you're sucked into that pain and hurt, you're also going to be inadvertently sucked into negativity. All right, so you need to shift those perceptions and you need to start finding gratitude. Yes, there are things that you can still be thankful for in your life, all right, outside of that experience. I'm quite sure there are countless things that you can still have to be thankful in your life, and those are the things that you need to lean on. Those are the things that you have to find a way to be able to acknowledge and see in your life. And so that you're not blinded. You're not blinded to those things because you have tunnel vision and it's only focused on your hurt and your pains and all of the horrible things that have happened to you that's sucking you into the darkness. You see? So if I'm getting sucked into the darkness, like we're talking about positives and negatives, we learn that in math. If you have a negative and you want to get, there's a line, the numerical line here, and here's the negative, here's 0 and the positives. We got to start getting into the gratitude to start getting out of the negative. And then when we allow ourselves to see those things, it certainly helps us, all right? Along with the other things, getting some help, not suffering in silence. That occurs as well. People just soak and they don't get the professional help that they could get. I do offer coaching, and particularly to narcissistic abuse. If you're struggling with that, I highly recommend that you schedule an appointment with me. I can help you with this. There's no one that has gotten coaching from me that can't tell you that this session has not been extremely helpful from day one. Sometimes we go to the regular therapist and they don't really understand narcissistic abuse. So get help. But, even if it's not through me, find someone that does understand. Okay? And get that help that you need. All right? Another thing that I'm going to say is learn how to detach from how other people treat you to your self-worth and your self-value. How they treated you, that's them. That's an example of their darkness. That's an example of their brokenness and their ugliness. All right? It has nothing to do with your value and your worth, because that should be coming from yourself anyway and not what other people are doing. And like I said in other videos, that's why it's self-esteem, self-worth. The words self go before that. Not, no, based off of how other people treat you, that's your worth. Based off of how other people treat you, that's your self-esteem. No, it comes from the self. And what a beautiful thing. What a beautiful thing, because no one should be loving and caring about you in this world more than you. You should be loving and caring to yourself first and foremost, before we could even expect it from other people. But once we increase our emotional maturity, we know that there are dark people out here in the world. Whether we want them or not, whether we like it or not, they do exist. And their brokenness inside of them doesn't allow them to treat other people with respect and dignity. It doesn't allow them to have sincere, compassionate feelings for others. As a matter of fact, we know narcissists have brain injuries. And the frontal cortex that deals with empathy, they have an issue with that. That's why they don't have empathy. Scientists have studied their brains. They've hooked them up. People who were diagnosed as narcissism, as psychopaths, and they showed them images of horrible murders and stuff, and the parts of their brain that should have been like going crazy with activity, it wasn't. So it's something wrong with that person. It's something wrong with them. So all that they did to you, it shows you their sickness. It shows you their sickness. All right? So as we learn more about narcissistic abuse, yes, we learn about how both roles work off of each other. And if you don't, welcome to my channel. You're going to get a lot of information to help you self-reflect. But, ultimately, and sometimes it's the hardest thing that we've ever had to do is overcoming this narcissistic abuse. But it's an opportunity. It really is. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to graduate. It's an opportunity to learn more about yourself. It's an opportunity for you to illuminate. It is. Because you're talking to someone who's been there and done that. I know what it's like to feel hopeless, to feel worthless. I know what it's like to feel horrible and devastated after narcissistic abuse. But I am a witness, and there are a lot of people who've overcome that. And you can do it too. You are worthy, regardless as to how that other person treated you, regardless to, what their thoughts and opinions of you are. So we have to detach from their nastiness, from their illness. We have to detach from the parts that they're accountable for and know that it at the end of the day, it really doesn't have anything to do with it. And that's a perception shift. Because as long as you think that it has something to do with it, it will have something to do with it. And that's why the Bible does say, so as a man thinketh, so is he. So as a man thinketh, so is he. And another thing to think about, biblically speaking, is what does a man treasure, there his heart will follow. So what were you treasuring, and what should you be treasuring moving forward? Because if we're getting suicidal because that relationship didn't work out, or we're getting suicidal because that person didn't treat us right, or we're getting suicidal because a handful of people didn't treat us right, or we're getting suicidal because of people, period, didn't treat us right, we're putting our treasure in man. And God said, don't put your trust in man, because he knows something that we have to know in our emotional maturity. And that's that men, I'm saying men, but man is not perfect. God knows that. So he said, you can't put your trust in man. He will let you down every time. So, this is more than just a simple letdown. Of course, narcissistic abuse, this is like the big dog of betrayal when we experience this. And, if you're going into the situation and your emotional maturity isn't to that level, it can certainly pull you to that point of just feeling hopeless. But if you have stumbled into this video, if God has led you to a channel like this, we know there's hope. And that's not coming out of egotisticalness. He's trying to intercept you right now. He's sending a voice. I'm a vessel. He's sending a voice right now to get to you, to say these things, to tell you that he's not done with you, to tell you that he's going to take those sorrows and pains, those trials and tribulations, he's going to take your lemons and turn them into lemonades. You're going to become wise from those experiences. You're going to obtain wisdom out of that, and no one's ever going to be able to do that to you again. That person was exploiting you. That person was a con artist. They were manipulating you. But you're going to learn and do better moving forward, and you won't be subjected to Satan's minions, if you will, because they're vessels as well. They're vessels for darkness. Somewhere along the line, they decided to be vessels for darkness, and they want to come and put your light out. If you do this, if you commit suicide, that's what they were trying to do. That's how they win. When you give up on yourself, when you throw in the towel, when you give up on reaching your purpose, because that's what's going to happen. When you commit suicide, you're having an early exit. You're having an early exit. And now all the people that God wanted you to have your testimony for, and then all the glory and happiness that was coming to you as you did the work through the healing, but you were feeling that burn inside of you and that purge that I say that all survivors go through, and it was making you feel like you were breaking down. Well, guess what? You were. The old parts of you. There were parts of you that were breaking down and dying, because the new you is going to be different. It's going to be different. But you have to be able to go through the purge, and life is not picking on you. Trust me. Lots of people have lost everything in life and have had to start over. The most successful people in the world have experienced horrific devastations. But it was those experiences that humbled them, that refined them, and that gave them the wisdom as they got promoted in life to stay on steady ground. So, a lot of times we get stuck on why me? What did I do to deserve this? Where's their karma? And having more so of a victim mentality. And that's why I said we have to mind those stories, guys. We have to mind the stories that we're telling ourselves. We have to mind them. Because I don't want you yet again, reiterating the tunnel vision that keeps you from seeing the rest of the picture. Do you still have love in your life? Whether it's from, it may not be from that narc, but they can't love anyone, including themselves, I don't want your emotions to get the best of you. Your pain and your sorrows and hurts to overcome you and get the best of you. It's also an indication of not being balanced with your emotions and your logic, guys. Your life is worth living. Your life is worth living. And we all have a story, and you got one hell of a story right now. And you've come to this channel because you are a survivor. And if you don't feel like a survivor, the universe wants you to know that you are one. Take that situation off the throne. That situation is not your end-all, be-all. You're still here. You're still breathing. You just have to heal. You have to find healing and grow. You have to find healing and grow. You have to shift your perceptions. Your life is not over because someone mistreated you, severely mistreated you. Your life is not over. Like I said, it's an indication of their sickness. Their sickness. So, I meant to say this right off the bat in the beginning of the video, but I'm going to have it posted underneath in the description. But I want to provide a phone number, okay? It's the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. Okay, it's open 24/7. And if you're having those thoughts, you can call this number and talk to someone who's trained for those situations, okay? And that number is 1-800-273-8255. Again, that number is 1-800-273-8255. And that's the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. Okay? There's a lot of resources, guys, out there to understand more about suicide. There's a lot of resources for those who are feeling suicidal. There's resources for those who are grieving someone that has committed suicide. Just all types of resources out there, guys, for everyone. Google is your friend at that point. And numbers like the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, when you call them, they can give you resources. They can help you find resources locally to where you live, okay? The main thing is, having that wrong perception and needing to have a shift in that perception so that you could see things clearly. People who are committing suicide, they're not in their right mind. And something called depression is typically at play here. Depression. And what is that? That's feeling the pressure of a person, place, a thing, a situation, and it feels like a heavy burden that you don't want to carry anymore, which is an indication of needing to find a healing so that we can let go of it, right? That's what that indicates. So feeling suicidal doesn't mean you have to act on it. It just means that you need to definitely get some help from someone who understands this, all right? But working on your perceptions in the story. So you're feeling suicidal. What are you telling yourself? What's dominating your thoughts right now? What can't you find a solution to? And getting to someone that can help you see those solutions and help you have that clarity. Okay? Because at the end of the day, that person who's committing suicide successfully after narcissistic abuse, they're just hurting. They're hurting, and they weren't able to feel like they could tolerate that purge. That's what that is. And it's actually very sad, But in society, a lot of times, I think there's such a negative stigmatism around suicide. And like I said earlier, a lack of compassion around it for a lot of reasons. So let me just go through some general statistics here so that we can have some education about suicide, okay? It says suicide is the 10th leading cause of deaths in the U.S. for all ages. And I know that YouTube is global, anyone in the world could be watching. And, excuse me if I don't have the stats for your country. 23 Americans die by suicide every day, which means there is a death by suicide every 12 minutes. And then they gave it annually. And these are from the Center of Disease Control, where I'm getting these statistics, by the way. Suicide takes the lives of over 44,965 Americans every year. The highest suicide rates in the U.S. are among whites, American Indians, and Alaskan Natives. Only half of all Americans experiencing an episode of major depression receive treatment. The 80 to 90% of people that seek treatment for depression are treated successfully using therapy and/or medications. Okay, let me stop right there. All right, because I'm not the one to just push people to medicine right away. Because a lot of times it really is just psychological. It's our mentality. It's the way that we were programmed, and it's the trauma bond, and it's the purge that we're having a hard time healing from, okay? But, let's talk about the the pathophysiological aspect of things, all right? Post-mortem are basically after someone has passed away from suicide. They have studied their brains and they have seen some neural differences and those that have, or neurological differences in those who have committed suicide successfully. And they said something called the BDNF, or the brain-derived neurotrophic factor. And that's located in the hippocampus or prefrontal cortex of the brain. They noticed low levels of that. And also serotonin, which is a brain neurotransmitter. They noticed that as well. And also in the pathophysiological aspect of things, something called epigenetics, they say, are at play. Now listen to the definition of that. Epigenetics changes the genetic expressions in response to environmental factors. But it doesn't alter the underlying DNA. It only changes the expression. Okay, guys? So what's that saying is, you know, that environmental factor is the experience. You know, being in that environment with that toxic person has changed your expression. But it doesn't have to be forever. You can recover from that. Okay? And it's by doing the things that I keep saying over and over in this video. Changing your perspective. Because when you don't see hope, there's a perspective that supports not seeing hope. There's a perspective that keeps you away from gratitude. There's a perspective that's blocking you from seeing your blessings. Okay? Because we all have things that we could be thankful for. And we still have good things to look forward to in our life. Okay? I mean, that trauma is not a death sentence. You know, I've said that many times. And when I've said it on the channel, I was talking more figuratively because, you know, the death sentence I was talking about then was mental. You know, it's renting space and this person is just miserable and, you know, like the bag lady or the emotional baggage, if you will, that sort of thing. But it's not a death sentence either way, guys, for you psychologically or physically. All right? It just means that, you know, the coping that you're doing, it's not working for you. So you're going to have to try something else. I highly recommend getting into a resource, you know, like coaching, getting some coaching from someone who understands this to help you heal through and grow through the grieving process, because the grieving process is swallowing you right now. Okay? And that situation is blinding you to other opportunities to come, positive ones, guys. Let me go back to the All right, I want to go here. Let's talk about the risk factors for and I'm not going to get into a whole bunch of statistics. I'm going to have a live chat to talk about the statistics more. But I really wanted to make this video to really try to have a word with that person who's currently in that mind frame or approaching that mind frame. All right, some of the risk factors that make people susceptible, you know, to being suicidal. Hold on a second here. Is depression, is bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, personality disorders, alcoholism, and substance abuse. Now that's what they had generally on there, but I'm going to add, of course, trauma, PTSD, okay, and other kinds of abuse, not just alcoholism and substance abuse, all right? Obviously, all the other kinds: mental, psychological, emotional, verbal, financial, okay? All right. So, mental health is real, guys. And a lot of we all get the gym memberships and we want to look good physically on the outside, but we have to make sure that we're taking care of our mental as well. All right, guys. And suicide, if you're having suicidal thoughts, it's just your mental crying out for help. And you have to give it that help, guys. Give it that help. You deserve that chance. I mean, especially because, not in spite of, it's not, oh, I got treated horrible. It's the worst thing that ever happened to me. I've never felt this horrible in my life. I deserve to die now? No. It's because I went through all of that. I deserve to recover. I deserve to especially get back into my peace and my happiness. I deserve especially to go on and get in my purpose and live a fruitful life, guys. Because of that, especially because of that. All right. So I hope that, this video has helped someone understand that their life is worthy, that their life is worth it, that God is not finished with them. He's not waking you up every day and keeping that breath in your body for nothing. And I just want you to understand the logical aspects of suicide, because you're in your emotions when you're feeling suicidal. But if you're able to step into your logic about it, you'll understand. There's a purge that all survivors of narcissistic abuse have to go through. But everyone, you keep hanging in there. You keep doing the right thing. You build your support system. Don't go at it alone. Be willing to put into yourself, because that person has depleted you. You have to be willing to invest in yourself and put into yourself now. You have to fight for yourself in a way that you always wanted other people to fight for you. You have to be able to do that to yourself first and foremost. You should want to do it for yourself first and foremost. And it shouldn't be an option not to do it just because they didn't do it. Because the way my mind works is even more so important because they didn't do it. Because I don't have all that support, I can abandon myself too. And a lot of you do have people that love and care about you, and they will be devastated and heartbroken. Not that narcissist. They're not going to be heartbroken. They're going to be happy. They're going to feel powerful. We can't give them that. And then all that light that God had to shine, and because He works through people, all the people He wanted you to affect and meet, it goes out the window now. And then you never get your reparations, which is getting your peace and happiness again, which is feeling stronger than ever and wiser than ever. You rob yourself of that when you decide to go the route of suicide. It's a one-dimensional way of thinking, guys. And we have to open our minds and see the bigger picture. We have to open our minds and see the bigger picture. Get closer to God's voice. Prayer and meditation. Start making those shifts in your perceptions and the story that you're telling yourself. Start finding gratitude in your life. Start surrounding yourself in positivity. Of course, if you're just home in bed staring at the wall and it's consuming your mind, yeah. But if you get up and go out into a beautiful scenery, go be in nature, you start doing loving things for yourself, be more gentle with yourself. Sometimes we're our hardest critic. We're our hardest critic. We're our hardest critic, and that has to stop. It has to stop. I'm going to save the statistics, like I said, for the live chat. I'm going to follow this up in the live chat, maybe in a few days, give people a chance to watch this video if need be. I don't know. But, I'll follow it up with a live chat where we can get more technical. But, I had to follow my discernment, and it said, you know what, just stay personal in this one. Just stay personal, Lakia. Don't hop into all of that. Just stay personal. I'm opening up my email, CoachLakia@gmail.com. That's below in the description. If you're having these thoughts, you're welcome to email me, okay? You're welcome to email me. I have a support group over on Facebook for survivors of narcissistic abuse. It's a great community. It's a great community. I have a motivational playlist, guys, with about 40 videos in it. And it can help lift you out of the slumps, honey. You mean to tell me you're going to listen to 40 of those videos and still feel defeated, still not want to get out of bed, still not feel like life is worth living? It ain't going to happen. I promise you that. So I'm going to definitely leak that playlist to the end of this video. It's okay, and it's going to be all right. Our hearts. Our hearts are so tender, and that's why in the Bible it says to guard your heart with everything, because so much, it says everything flows for it, but I'm going to say so much flows from it. And you tried to give your heart to someone and they didn't respect it, and it was too much for them to hold. It was too much responsibility for them, and their brokenness, all it could do was spew that toxicity over you. But now it's time to purge, it's time to detox, it's time to cleanse yourself from that. And there's a great reward waiting on the end for your efforts to do that. And you're going to be happy that you didn't give up on yourself, because you're not going to give up on yourself. You're not going to do that. Your life is worth living. You're going to be okay. Even if you thought it was the love of your life, there's billions of people in the world. There's billions of people in the world. Trust me. There's going to be other opportunities. And guess what? This is going to mess your head up. But oftentimes, after our worst relationship, we meet the love of our life. It's the reward for hanging in there. It's the reward. You ever seen that Facebook meme of the person that's digging through the tunnel for diamonds? And you could tell, I dropped my pen. You could tell that they've been digging for a long time, and they're just exhausted, like, oh my God, I've been digging forever. And the diamond, all they had to do was take that pick and hit one more time, and the diamond was right there. And it shows them walking away. And I don't want you to be that person. Because like I said, usually after our worst experiences, God comes and he shows up and he shows out, honey. And you would never know that you could feel so much peace and so much happiness, and that your life could be so redirected after such a horrible, traumatic experience or experiences. Get the help that you need so that you can pinpoint the behaviors and the patterns, or where you're stuck in a grieving process that's preventing you from moving forward. Get the help. Get the help. And there's even a lot of free resources in your community, behavioral health, that you can, look into, guys. A lot of nonprofit organizations that are probably out to help people, especially if you've experienced domestic violence or anything like that, okay, guys? There's a lot of resources, and you're not alone. You're not alone. Millions of people have these thoughts, but like I said, they don't want to be judged. or people to think that they're crazy. You're not crazy. It's very normal. It's very normal. All right, guys. So with that being said, I definitely want to say God bless you. God bless you. Reach out to God. Ask Him. Tell Him how you're feeling. Ask Him to fill your heart. And He will. He will. Stay close to the Word. Stay close to positive things. Redirect your thoughts. Do you think something horrible, negative? You're nothing. You're a piece of ish. You're da-da-da-da. Replace it. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. No, that's what the ex-narc, that's what that narc thought. I know better. I'm beautiful. I'm worthy. All right? This is spiritual welfare. This is spiritual warfare. Okay? But I want you to tend to your welfare. Okay? I need you to tend to that, guys. I need you to tend to it. All right? Tend to your spirit and your soul. Take care of yourself. Eat, drink, rest. Find your gratitude. Mind the story that you're telling yourself. Help yourself have a shift in your perception. The simple fact that you are up and breathing, there's hope. There's something else pending. There's something else coming. And it's better than what you've ever had. But you have to make it through the night to see the day. You see what I'm saying? Because what happens in the day? The sun comes out. The sun comes out, but you have to make it through the night. What is the night? The storms of your life. You have to. Okay? Say that to someone who was busting their butt for 10 years to get into the music industry, and now, they got all these hits, but people didn't see the 10-year struggle. People didn't see all that. They're not an overnight success. That's just the way it might seem, because they seem to come out of nowhere overnight. But no, that person was homeless at a certain point. They done did all types of things and sacrifices to make it to that point, guys. All right? We have to increase our emotional maturity. We have to create that shield, because you know what no one is ever allowed to take from me? My peace of mind, my happiness, and my right to live and live life abundantly. Nobody's allowed to take that from me. So you're going to stand in your strength. You're going to stand in your strength. And you might be feeling weak right now. Come to a channel like this and get that energy. Take the energy that I'm sending through. Take that energy. Take it. Take that. Take the energy. I'm sending you that energy. And everything's going to be okay. Take some deep breaths. Meditate. You'll find ways. You'll find ways to de-stress. Find ways to learn how to cope. You can do this. You can do this, and there's so many resources. Again, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is 1-800-273-8255, and they're open 24/7. All right, and I've personally extended my social media inboxes, my Gmails. Just hit me up. You're not in this alone, okay, guys? All right. With that being said, thank you for so much for listening to this video. Repeat it as needed. Repeat it as needed. We have to change our perceptions. We have to change our perceptions. We have to get more gratitude. We can't get that tunnel vision and get sucked into the darkness, guys. You got this. You got this. Stay blessed, because you are still blessed, and everyth's going to be all right. Never give up on yourself. This is what I say after all my videos. Never give up on yourself. Continue to do the work. And until next time, please take care.